Welcome back to Stormy Tells Ghost Stories Haunted Paris on my Girls Rock Productions channel. In week 2, I'll be talking about the opera house that has inspired a classic novel and Broadway musical, a beautiful park that was once the scene where the guillotine was tested, and the man who would inspire Sweeney Todd. Now, before we get started, I do want to apologize for the huge hiatus between this video and the previous one, Haunted Paris Week 1. I have been having struggles with writing the scripts, filming, editing, recording, all of that all by myself, as well as keeping a full-time job and taking care of my kids. So it has been a lot to try to get things done. Hopefully from now on I will be able to post everything weekly again and won't have any more disruptions. But now back to our stories. I am going to start with the theater that has been a source of many legends since its construction began in 1861, l'Opéra Garnier, aka the Palais Garnier. Since the Palais Garnier was the 13th opera house built in Paris, some people believe it to be cursed. They have had this opinion ever since a sad evening in 1896 during a performance of Faust. That's when the 7-ton counterweight of the auditorium's huge chandelier fell on the audience, and a woman sitting in seat 13 lost her life. The curse could have ended there, but it is said that in 1932, a little rat, nickname given to the corps ballet dancers because they would sound like rats while practicing up in the attic, fell from a gallery and landed on the 13th step of the grand staircase, leaving a splinter in the middle of the step. Finally, there's the story of Ernest, the Phantom of the Opera, who is said to have haunted the building since 1973. This is why you won't find a dressing room 13 in the Garnier. Before Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera premiered in London's West End in 1986, there was Gaston Leroux's 1909 novel by the same name. And before even Leroux's, there were a myriad of myths, legends, and partially true stories that surround the famed Paris opera house, Palais Garnier. Leroux's blended fact with fiction to create Phantom, the haunting and bewitching story of a mysterious and disfigured man who becomes obsessed with Christine Daae, the young singer he both haunts and mentors. This story was inspired by one of the real legends of l'Opéra Garnier. The most famous ghost has been the subject of many playwrights since it first appeared in Gaston Leroux's novel, The Phantom of the Opera, published in 1911. Now, Leroux is said to have been inspired by mysterious events that took place at the Palais Garnier, which is the setting of the story, in the 19th century. First, the tutu of dancer Émile Levry caught on fire in 1862. Then, a stagehand was found hanged, but the rope could not be found. Next, an unknown man booked dressing room number 5 every night. And finally, the great chandelier fell in 1896. This fantastic detective story recounts the terrifying events attributed to the ghost of Eric, a composer and ventriloquist who hid in the underground lake of Palais Garnier and in dressing room number 5. Today, the Phantom of the Opera still brings his legend to life at the Paris Opera House and delights visitors. So is this story legend or reality? For Gaston Leroux, there's no doubt, since he wrote in his preface, the Phantom of the Opera did exist. He was not, as has long been believed, the inspiration of artists, the superstition of directors, the fallible creation of the excited brains of the corps de ballet girls, their mothers, the ushers, the cloakroom attendants, and concierge. Yes, he existed, in the flesh, although he gave himself all appearances of a real ghost. In other words, a shadow. So what about the underground lake? Does it really exist? The 5th basement of l'Opéra Garnier, some 10 meters below stage, lies a veritable artificial lake with crystal clear waters. Occupying around a quarter of the total surface area of the basement, this mysterious pool took shape in 1881 when the Opera House was being built. That year, the architect Charles Garnier encountered a major problem. Just as he was in the process of building his life's work on the foundations encountered the water table, and the site was flooded. But Garnier was not to be deterred, and in fact showed great ingenuity by deciding to build reservoirs to channel the flowing water while stabilizing the building. It was a daring solution, but an effective one. The vaulted structure, made entirely of brick, even served as a water reserve in the event of a fire. Nowadays, only the Paris Fire Brigade has the chance to take a dip in it during training. Now, let's leave this beautiful opera house and head to a park that brought about France's most infamous and gruesome form of execution, Le Parc Monsouris. Take a stroll through the lush greenery in Parc Monsouris, one of the most beautiful parks in Paris, and then follow the meridian line of Paris that is passing through the park. Rumor has it that strange events and hauntings seem to bring life to this place and brought about some of the legends behind some of the most bizarre occurrences. Parc Monsouris is located in the 14th arrondissement of Paris and has a rich history spanning centuries. It is one of the 4 large urban public parks in Paris and has a wide sloping lawn, a lake, and even a meteorology station. When they started building the park, they had to remove over 800 bodies from the tunnels as the area was part of the catacombs of Paris. Parc Monsouris is an eerily beautiful park that boasts a variety of interesting legends, tales, and spooky stories. People claim to have heard strange sounds and seen unusual shadows, while other visitors have even seen the ghosts of long-deceased inhabitants in their midst among the trees. Furthermore, it is said that the occasional apparition can be seen lurking in the shadows of nearby buildings or at night near the lake. Whatever you believe, one thing's undeniable. Parc Monsouris is certainly a park with a mysterious history worth uncovering. One legend that is told about the park was that on the official opening day, there was one working there who messed up and accidentally drained the artificial lake in a single day. The park engineer was so distraught that he committed suicide. Perhaps the most notorious piece of Parc Monsouris' history is the guillotine, which was best known to be the most preferred way to execute criminals during the French Revolution. According to a legend, this is the place that they first started testing the murder weapon, and supposedly the victims of the guillotine are said to return to this place. It is said that some visitors have heard eerie echoes that bring to mind the sound of a blade slicing through the air. A reminder of what happened here over 2 centuries ago. Some paranormal enthusiasts even claim that one can still feel the presence of lingering spirits in certain areas throughout the park, either due to residual haunting or because those powerful executions are remembered and honored by the ghostly forms. The victims of the guillotine are not the only headless ghosts said to walk the park at night. One of the most infamous stories connected to the park revolves around a certain Monsieur de Monsouris that conveniently hails the name with the park, which is odd because the park is named after Monsouris, meaning mouse mocker, as the area was overrun with mice due to a mill that used to stand there. Anyway, named or not, this man was, according to legend, attacked and murdered in the park by a group of bandits close to where the Bardo Palace was going to be built and burned down in the 90s. Apparently, they decapitated him for good measure as well, and it is said the body was ambling around before dying. Another version of the story was that he himself was a brigand living in the 19th century and was the one terrorizing travelers. In the end, he was beheaded by William the Aquitaine. However, he kept close to the park in the afterlife as well and is said to haunt the grounds to this day. From an iconic theater to a park filled with headless ghosts, the final stop in this week's video is going to be where the real-life Sweeney Todd took up shop, the demon barber of Rue Chanoinesse. The affair de la Rue de Monsouris is one of those Parisian urban legends which is told in hushed tones during somber candlelit evenings. The Parisian Sweeney Todd is said to have been a butcher and barber duo who lived side by side in Ile-de-la-Cité during the 14th century. The birthplace of Paris, i.e. Ile-de-la-Cité, hosts many legends and myths. You see, once upon a time, the majority of the city would have been confined to the historic island, which is said to be the larger of the two natural islands on the Seine River, which still exists to this day. During Roman times, the city was known as Lutetia, and there are still some vestiges of the Roman city to be found in Paris today, including number 5 Rue de la Colombe on Ile-de-la-Cité, where you'll find, marked out on the road, a small trace of Roman defenses that existed on Ile-de-la-Cité centuries ago and was rediscovered in 1898. Even today, the area is one of the few places in Paris, as well as Les Marais, which largely escaped the mass overhaul of Baron Haussmann in the 19th century and has therefore retained much of its medieval charm and several historic buildings. Some particular highlights of Ile-de-la-Cité include the ever-so-narrow Rue Chanoinesse, which bears the mark of the 1910 floods of Paris. Some of the highest ever water levels in the city were recorded during this time. The water actually rose to a height of 1.5 meters. Wander along Rue Chanoinesse today, and you'll be greeted by the delightful little street offerings views of Notre Dame Cathedral and boasting one of the prettiest little cafe bistros in the city, Au Vieux Paris d'Arcole. Sorry, not so great with the French, trying my best. Anyway, in the spring, stunning wisteria blooms on the side of the building, and little chairs and tables in various shades of pink and purple are all set up on the pavement. This wasn't always the case. The street was once famous for the affair de la Rue Monsouris, which is also sometimes referred to as the affair de la Rue Chanoinesse, thanks to a later name change. The story goes that during the 14th century, in some stories the 1380s, there was a butcher-barber duo who stocked meat pastries with the most horrific origins. Back in the Middle Ages, the Rue de Monsouris was known across Paris for its sweet meat pastries. People would travel from all over the city to enjoy the pâtés and meat pies. Even Charles VI is said to have been a fan. The story also goes that there was a barber and pastry chef working next door to one another during the 14th century, and that they had a rather macabre deal. According to legends, students from the nearby chapter of the Notre Dame started going missing. It is said that the barber of the Rue de Monsouris would kidnap and butcher the victims, typically out-of-town students, so that the least suspicion was raised. They would then pass them through the trapdoor, which opened into the cellar of the meat pie shop of the pastry chef. The story goes that during the 14th century, in some stories the 1380s, there was a butcher-barber duo who stocked meat pastries with the most horrific origins. Back in the Middle Ages, the Rue de Monsouris was known across Paris for its sweet meat pastries. People would travel from all over the city to enjoy the pâtés and meat pies. Even Charles VI is said to have been a fan. The story also goes that there was a barber and pastry chef working next door to one another during the 14th century, and that they had a rather macabre deal. According to legends, students from the nearby chapter of the Notre Dame started going missing. It is said that the barber of the Rue Chanoinesse would kidnap and butcher the victims, typically out-of-town students, so that the least suspicion was raised. They would then pass them through the trapdoor, which opened into the cellar of the meat pie shop of the pastry chef. Now, this practice is said to have continued on for several years before they were caught. The story goes that one of the unfortunate students is said to have had a dog, a German student named Alaric. When the dog's owner didn't return home one day, the dog wouldn't stop barking outside of the shop to point where the constabulary should arrive. They did a quick inspection and soon discovered the horrific truth behind the popular pastries. They were made from human flesh. The instruments and trapdoor between the two businesses were found. For their crimes, the butcher and the pastry chef, as well as their stores, were burned. Of course, after hearing the story and urban legend pertaining to the affaire de la Rue Chanoinesse, you may wonder, did this really happen? Well, let's examine the facts. Despite many historians discussing this affair, there are no official documents to record the crimes or the punishments. Today, the location where these businesses once stood is believed by many to be that of 1820 Rue Chanoinesse, which is, ironically, the headquarters of the Paris Police Department. That concludes this week's installment of Stormy Tells Ghost Stories Haunted Paris. I hope you enjoyed some of the darkest tales the City of Love has to offer. L'Opera Garnier, the Parc Monsouris, and the Demon Barber of Rue Chanoinesse. Remember to like this video and subscribe to my Girls Walk Productions channel. While you are here, check out some of my other playlists. On Stormy Teaches Music, I have just started to pick back up the covers and guitar lessons on Mondays and Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And I will start tomorrow with the lesson of Almost Lover by A Fine Frenzy. After that, it will resume with the covers being on Monday, and the lesson for the song covered will be taught on Wednesday. For the live versions of the lessons, you can check out my Girls Rock Productions Patreon, linked below. My Patreon also has daily live streams of me doing my art while also discussing different topics, which condensed versions of these streams can be found on my Stormy Does Art playlist. I have also started up my Stormy Talks True Crime playlist again, where I talk about some of the most controversial and heinous crimes throughout history. Those new videos are posted Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you are ever in the Wilmington, North Carolina area, sign up for the Wilmington Ghosts Walking Tours or the Wilmington Spirits and Spirits Pub Crawl with U.S. Ghost Adventures. You can have me or one of our other talented guides show you around our historic downtown and hear some of the darkest stories the beautiful city on the beach has to offer. While you are visiting, if you decide you want to stay or buy a vacation home, check out my Moving to Coastal Carolina channel and contact me, as I am a licensed realtor in southeastern North Carolina area. If you would like to help support my channel so that I can continue to post more frequently, I will be posting my CashApp and Venmo links in the description box below. All proceeds will go towards the production of this channel. Tune in next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the next video on Stormy Tells Ghost Stories Haunted Paris. Until then, have a great week and be safe.